Welcome, welcome everybody. Welcome to the 23rd annual Urban Farm Fruit Tree Education Program. And I am here with Miss Janice. Hello, Janice.
Hello, Greg. I'm
Hi.
Janice.
Yep. And where are you from?
Okay, I realized I said that, but you actually hadn't introduced yourself, really. I'm Janice. I am the general manager of the Urban Farm. I am located in North Peoria, but I'm still here in Arizona and rocking and rolling with the fruit tree program.
And your farm is 2-piece in a pod.
My farm is 2-piece in a pod.
Yay. Cool. All right. So we are going to be talking about what you need to know before you buy your fruit trees. And that's inclusive of the things you need to know when you buy the tree and when you plant it. So let's go ahead and jump in. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go into the background and just try and be in the background for you to take this class, but I'll still be here if you need me.
And you can answer people's questions too.
That's true.
All right. So this first slide is the front yard at the Urban Farm. The picture on the left was in 2004 when I planted the hedge. The picture on the right was in 2014, 10 years later. That is an apple tree hedge. I planted them 2 feet apart. That was way too close. We're going to talk about that in a little while. All right, this is me in 1975 when I planted my first fruit trees in Phoenix. The reason I love fruit trees is because you plant them once and you get to harvest the fruit for decades. And they make a massive amount of fruits, especially when you follow our directions and basically do what we ask you to do. You're going to find that you have a magical amount of fruit that comes off of the fruit trees. And we only bring in fruit trees that are really proven for the area. Okay. And why I love fruit trees: you plant it once and you harvest fruit for decades. And I had at the Urban Farm, I lived there 32 years, and in the backyard, all the way to the back right of the backyard, there were 2 citrus trees that were planted in the 1920s. And when I left there this past season, they were thriving and still making fruit at over 100 or just about 100 years old. So citrus can easily last that long or longer if you take care of them. And the deciduous trees, so the picture you're seeing here is an apple tree with sweet potatoes underneath it. That's an apple tree sweet potato guild. And what I found is that stone fruit, so anything with a pit in the middle of it, and apples have a tendency to last, if you take really good care of them, 25 years or so. And I lived at the Urban Farm long enough to see multiple fruit trees go through that cycle. It's just the heat that eventually gets them. So my favorite thing to grow fruit trees, why there's no lack in nature. That apple tree that you're seeing there in the picture used to provide me about 150 pounds of apples. It was amazing. And once you harvest your own fruit, I'll tell you what, you're probably not going to want to buy fruit out of the grocery store again, especially stone fruit. Man, the peaches that come off of a desert gold peach, I love that Jolene calls it, they call them bend over peaches. You have to bend over to eat them because you're going to get splashed down the front. All right, so what is the true cost of the tree? It is not simply just the tree. The true cost is the tree, the water, the fertilizer, the foliar feeding, the time, the hope. And what we've done with this program in 23 years is we've put together a list of ways to be successful with your trees, and brought in the trees that absolutely work. I had somebody ask me about an Einsheimer apple recently. And while the Einsheimer apple is low chill, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, it ripens in the fall. And the Einsheimer apples that I had growing at the Urban Farm, in fact, there were a couple of them in this hedge that you're looking at, they'd produce 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 apples. And the Annas and the Dorset Goldens would produce hundreds of apples. So you can experiment as long as you know you're experimenting, you can experiment. and then you go with, or you can go with what works. And we've proven what works time after time after time. All right, so why don't some trees produce while others are rock stars? That's really the question. And we're going to start with chill hours. We get approximately 300 hours of chill, and chill is anything under about 39, 40 degrees. And we get about 300 hours of those from middle of November to middle of February. Fruit trees, not including citrus, fruit trees need chill. So if you're looking at a Granny Smith apple, it may require 600 or 700 hours worth of chill, which I saw one of those at a Home Depot recently when I was in Phoenix. It requires, I don't know, 600 hours of chill. We don't get that much chill in Phoenix. So it's never gonna make fruit. And the thing is that nurseries and big box stores often know that and they don't tell you. So how many hours of chill do we get? About 300. So you need to purchase a fruit tree that requires less than 300 hours worth of chill. If you walk up to that tag and look at the tag and it doesn't say how many chill hours are required, don't buy it until you look it up, or just get trees from us. So chill hours is number one thing you need to know. Rootstocks. There are very specific rootstocks that do well in the low desert. Rootstocks are different from fruiting or scion wood stock. The scion wood is the part that makes the fruit. The rootstock, in our case, for this particular tree, this was an apricot tree, it was Nemagard rootstock, and it does really well in our desert soils. And the problem we run into with big box stores is they'll order, 2,000 peach trees on a particular rootstock, and that particular rootstock may do very well in Seattle, but it's not going to do well in Phoenix. Phoenix and the low desert requires very specific rootstocks in order for the trees to thrive. So you need to make sure that you have the right rootstock. Again, we've done that work for you. So if you're buying our trees, you know that they're on the right rootstock. And the third, and really one of the more important things, is making sure that you get climate appropriate trees. And that includes ripening times. One of the things that I discovered about 10, 12 years ago was that if you buy a fruit tree, peach, a stone fruit, a peach, apricot, plum, or apples, and they ripen in the fall, the problem is that the fruit has to survive on the tree through the hottest part of the summer. So what we recommend is fruit trees that ripen and the fruit is off of the tree by about July 1st. And we've had the best luck with those. So the three main things you need to know when buying trees, and we got you covered on this, is chill hours, under 300 hours, rootstock, make sure it's on the correct rootstock, and make sure it ripens at the correct time. So those are your crib notes when looking for fruit trees, but just support us and all of our free education and get the trees from us. And if you want to experiment, I encourage you to do that. Just know you're experimenting. All right, so now we're going to jump into urban orcharding. Urban orcharding is different than commercial orcharding. This picture here, these two trees I planted in 1999 at the corner of 3rd Avenue, and I think it's Rovey, right near Bethany Home. And these are pruned appropriately so that you can walk up to them and harvest them while you're standing on the ground. So that's the big reason that we want to keep our trees short. I had this question yesterday. Somebody said to me, hey, do you have any dwarf citrus? Well, what I found over the years is that there are no dwarfing rootstocks on any fruit trees except the Bonanza peach that actually does well here in the low desert. So if you plant them, on the dwarfing rootstock, they have a tendency to struggle. So what we suggest that you do is you buy the standard size trees and then keep them dwarfed. And you'll notice on the right, well, on both the trees, they start branching out low. That is a pruning process that we do, and we can help you with that on the lot. So if you're going to cover them with some kind of netting to protect the fruit from birds, never, never, never use bird netting. Always use tulle, Tulle. It's a fabric. You buy it at the fabric store. Bird netting tangles with the tree and kills birds. Tulle is a fine fabric that doesn't let the birds in and will protect all your fruit. So this tree you can actually harvest from the ground. You can prune it from the ground. Also, by keeping them small, you can have multiple fruit trees in the same area that one standard size fruit tree fits in. So a peach tree can easily get 30 feet tall and 20 feet wide. In that same space, you can have 4 to 6 smaller trees so that you get what's called successive ripening. Successive ripening allows you to, well, with the desert gold peach, it ripens about mid-May. So then you get a couple of weeks of peaches in mid-May. And then the tropic snow or the Swazi swirl peach tree ripens out next, and that's about the first week of June. So you get a couple of weeks of fruit on those. And then you have the mid-pride peach that ripens at the end of June. We call this successive ripening. And there's about a dozen, there's about a dozen peach trees that do really well in the low desert. And so you can, mix and match them. I have my 3 or 4 favorites. That's the desert gold, the tropic snow, the Swazi swirl, and the mid-pride. Amazing trees. So that's why we keep the trees small, so we can easy to manage them and extend the season. In urban orcharding, here's that hedgerow again, the apples. You can put trees in hedgerows. In hedgerows, 6 foot between trees is plenty. These were on 2-foot centers. That was way too close. You don't need to spend that much money on trees. Put them at 6-foot centers and then prune them out as a hedge, and you'll be good to go. You can also put multiple trees in one hole. Now, this is a little deceptive, and we have a document called Backyard Orchard Culture on this. And why it's deceptive is because it's not one standard size hole, it's a jumbo hole. And you put the trees 18 to 24 inches apart, and you can put them in a triangle and bend them, point them out a little bit. And if you put them 18 inches apart, what you will eventually get is something that looks like one tree, but it has 3 distinctive peach varieties or apple varieties that ripen at different times. And I often get this question: multi-grafted trees, cocktail trees. I am not a fan. Here's why. Generally, they're quite a bit more expensive than a multi-grafted tree is usually 3 times the cost or more. And generally speaking, for the low desert, we don't get the varieties that will always thrive. So what I noticed last time I was in Phoenix was that I saw a multi-grafted tree. It had 3 apples on it. Only one of the apples was good for Phoenix. So I highly suggest, if you want to put trees in a small space, put multiple trees in one hole, and we can help you do that. Planting distance, like I said, for a hedgerow, 5 to 6 foot from trunk to trunk is best. If you want trees to stand alone, 10 to 12 feet distance between them is a great distance. All right, other things to know for fruit tree success. Fruiting viability. I had one of my neighbors a few years ago go to one of the local nurseries right near my house when I was in Phoenix and asked for a pomegranate, and they got a pomegranate and they brought it home and stuck it in the ground, and it was a decorative pomegranate. They didn't know what to ask for, the people, so all it got was little flowers and a teeny little fruit that fell off. So make sure that you're getting a tree or a plant that actually fruits. Self-fruitful versus non-self-fruitful. Self-fruitful means you can plant an Anna apple tree in the middle of your yard and you're going to get apples. Most of our trees that we sell are self-fruitful, and non-self-fruitful means that it needs a cross-pollinator, and those are marked. The ones that need cross-pollinators are marked in our shopping cart. When to plant. For best success, you want to plant in late September or October. For citrus, hence the reason we're bringing our citrus in. They're actually arriving Saturday for starting to pick up next Thursday. We'll be open, and I will be on lot. Right now I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. I will be on lot in next week, and you'll see my smiling face on the lot. And then our deciduous, and sometimes we bring in some tropicals, will be available there in January. We do our whole January.
I'm
program.
popping in here.
Yep.
You say next week, but this is going on YouTube. You got to be a little bit more specific about what
Oh.
next week is.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that. Next week, in this case, is September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and September 29th, 30th, and October 1st of 2022. Those are the dates that we will be open at the lot in Phoenix. Thanks, Janice.
No problem. And you'll be there all the September dates.
I will be there all the September dates. I will not be there October dates.
Okay.
All right, so what to put in the hole. This is just a preview. We have a very specific system. By planting your holes, you're going to dig a square hole. You're going to plant the tree with 40% native soil, 60% planting mix. You're going to add azomite, mycorrhiza, worm castings, and fertilizer in the hole. You're going to plant the tree. You're going to put a basin around the tree, a 6-foot diameter basin, and that's what goes in the hole. We're going to cover that in depth in our planting, watering, and fertilizing class, which I think is class number 2, which is we're giving it for the first time on Saturday. So we'll go in depth, pun intended, on that. All right, next we're going to do a quick view of what not to do to your trees. This is how to kill your fruit trees. In fact, I used to give the class called How to Kill Your Fruit Trees. Hot microclimates are zingers for fruit trees. The one on the left and the one on the right both died. The one on the left was on a mound. This always cracks me up. It was a fig tree on a mound. So they build a mound, they put a tree on it, they would put one emitter on there, they put gravel all the way up. Basically, you cooked the tree, sadly. Same on the right, too much gravel and concrete. I have solutions for everything I'm about ready to show you. So I'm going to show you a bunch of slides on what not to do, but then I have solutions for you. Planting in gravel, it's a major no-no. Both of these trees died. So don't do this. There we go. Oh, hey, come back here. Planting in the lawn. There's a chance that it would work in the lawn, but not like this. I have a solution for you on this, but don't just plant them in the lawn. Your lawn gets watered 3 times a week. Your fruit tree needs to be watered every other week. And so you're either overwatering the tree or underwatering the lawn. And the Bermuda grass has an amazing ability to outcompete the tree. Both of these trees are struggling a little bit. All right, planting in pots. Generally speaking, we say no pots. If you want a tree in a pot, you need to make sure that it's the biggest pot that you can get a hold of. 20, 24, 30-inch tree boxes are best. But in the desert, you need to make sure you shade that pot throughout the hottest part of the year. Plant some kind of cover crop in it, but shade that pot, because otherwise the tree can and will cook. And then in a solar oven on the right, most of those trees didn't make it. You can see the tree wraps around the trees in the background. What I would have done with this particular property is I would have covered the entire than the entirety of what you're looking at with 12 inches of woody mulch. And you can get that much woody mulch at a company website called chipdrop.com. Drip irrigation, not preferred. One drip emitter right next to the trunk is not going to give your fruit tree enough water. If you have drip irrigation and that's your only choice, what I want you to use is one of our drip rings. Rather than put, this is the emitter on the right there is probably a half gallon per hour emitter. Our drip rings are 10 gallons per hour. And it's a ring that you put around the base of the tree. And so it distributes the water all the way around the basin. You'll also notice the gravel all the way up to the trunk of this tree. Not great. I will have a solution for that for you too. This is way too hot. It's got your
The drip rings are listed as drip circles on our cart.
Perfect.
Not, if you're looking for them. Perfect.
Thank you. So this is just way too hot of an environment for, this is a fig tree, and there's just way too much concrete. I'm going to have a solution for you on this, but these are the kinds of things that you need to look for when you're planting your trees. Too many block walls, not enough mulch and not enough shade. The tree on the left didn't make it. I don't think the tree on the right made it either. Not quite there. This is, so we're going to talk here in a minute about my 6-6 rule, 6-foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch. This is not 6 feet. In fact, all of this growth on this particular tree is rootstock growth. The scion wood, the top part died. Yeah. And this always cracks me up. So Bermuda grass won't grow up against this block wall. Why would somebody think in this particular case that putting a citrus tree up against the block wall, the tree would live? So if you're dealing with block walls like this, you can put them close to the block wall, but I probably wouldn't put them in the low desert this close to the block wall for a couple of reasons. First of all, citrus roots can get pretty heavy and they might jack up the wall. Secondly, the heat factor here is problematic. I'd probably pull it 4 feet off of the wall. That way you can walk around behind it and pick on the back. All right. I did a garden consult. I do garden consults with people. Janice, if you can put the garden consult link in the chat box, that would be great. We get on the phone and chat about your space for about 45 minutes to an hour, and you will be so happy with what you come out of. You'll be motivated. But this particular picture came from somebody that I was doing a garden consult with. And that block wall, if your back was to that block wall, you would be looking west. So we call this a western exposure. And they were wondering why nothing would grow in the garden bed up against this block wall, because it just cooks it. It's like one giant solar oven. The soil in that bed got super hot. Ideally, you need some kind of shade on the western side of this, really where the pool's at. So basically what I told them to do with this particular garden bed was take it out and pave it and make it part of the patio around the pool, because virtually nothing's going to grow there. I had a guy maybe 10 years ago buy 6 trees from me, and he took them home and he planted them in a garden bed just like this. And he called me 6 months later and he said, all my trees died. And I'm mad. And it's like, okay, well, let's explore this, figure out what happened. Turns out it was a western exposure in a raised bed garden. And I finally said to him, does anything grow in that garden bed? He said, no. It's because it's a western exposure. So you have to be really conscious of that. This particular space would be a really, really hot microclimate. And then no string trimmers. I got this photograph from somebody that said, this must have been 6-8 years ago, said, is this tree going to make it? He hit it with a string trimmer. That's what happens once you destroy the bark around the base of the tree. It's just not going to make it. All right, so what's the solution? You're going to plant properly. We're going to talk in depth about that. A lot of these in the planting, watering, and fertilizing, but you're going to plant properly. You're going to understand soil. You're not going to skimp on the soil and nutrients. I tell people this all the time. You're going to spend as much on the fruit tree the first year as you are going to spend on supplements and soils and mulch and that kind of stuff. So if you're spending $60 on a tree, expect to spend $60 on the things to make that tree successful. You're going to plant the tree at the correct depth. You're going to put lots and lots of woody mulch. You're going to get the tool, the watering tool, and water correctly. We have 2 watering tools, and then you're going to plant a ground cover. We're not going to cover all those things tonight, but that's generally the points that you need to cover. And we cover a lot more of these in depth in the planting, watering, and fertilizing. So now what I want to show you is what do we do for success? So this is our 6-6 rule. 6-foot diameter basin with 6 inches of woody mulch. What happens at the interface between the dirt and the woody mulch is very quickly it starts breaking down into this magic soil. And so put the 6-6 basin in place when you're planting. If you need to fix a basin around a tree on a tree that's already planted, I have created a video with Renee. Thank you very much, Renee. And it's on my YouTube channel. Maybe Janice, you can put that in the chat box, that talks about how to fix a broken tree basin. So, but this is what I'm talking about. And then what we have over it is paid for shade. This tree was, this picture was taken in July. The tree was planted in January. That's how much it grew. It grew from a 3.5 foot tall tree to this in like 6 months. This is the kind of results you can expect when you follow our recommendations. This is another one. So this is an 8-foot diameter basin with 6 inches of woody mulch. Again, my 6-6 rule. This particular tree, I like this picture because the tree on the right, the taller one, that is the rootstock. This is the genetic dwarf bonanza peach that we sell. It does really well in the desert. The rootstock needed to have been removed from the tree early on. So I coached them through getting it removed off of this particular tree. All right, this is a great start. This is in gravel. 6-foot diameter basin with 6 inches of woody mulch around it, planted at the right depth. And you can see the gravel all the way around it. Now we just need to add some, probably in this case, paid for shade. We're for sure gonna, once the woody mulch goes in, you can wrap the tree trunk with tree wrap. Also, that's step number 2. Step number 3 is to plant cowpeas or sweet potatoes in the basin around the tree. I have a slide on this a little later on that shows you how well the ground cover shades the ground. And we talk about this lots in our chats and everywhere. All right, so your job is to create healthy soil. Healthy soil has 5 components: dirt, organic matter, water, airspace, and everything that's alive in the soil. When you plant your tree, you're going to add 40% native dirt, 60% planting mix. That's the organic matter, along with the worm castings. That adds mycorrhizal life and more organic matter. And then you put your 6-foot diameter basin around the tree. So what you're doing is you're setting this tree up for success. The most important thing for you as an urban farmer, an orchardist, anybody that wants to grow food, is grow healthy soil. And here it is again. This is my 6-6. This is the basin on the right isn't quite 6-6 because I only had about 4-4 there when I planted that tree. And I made a basin out of red bricks. Boy, do I wish I had all my red bricks here now in Asheville. I have so many things to use them for. The 6-6 rule, and that's the 6-6 rule. The picture on the left is a handful of the woody mulch, and those were leaves from the ash tree that was above it. And the white stuff that's fungi, mushrooms. That's the mycorrhiza. That's the life in the soil. If you have mushrooms, I can't say this enough. If you have mushrooms in your yard, you're doing something right. That is a very good thing. You don't want to get rid of them. All right, so planting in the lawn. So we talked about planting in gravel. You saw some pictures about planting in gravel. This happens to be one of the things that I did. Again, it's a 4-foot diameter basin, not 6. This I put in about a decade ago. And this peach tree, this apricot tree, the one on the left was first year planted. The one on the right was 2 years later. And you can see right behind Kismet, that's my pooch. You can see right behind Kismet, there's cowpeas growing in the basin around the tree. And here's what it looked 4 years later. So this is like 5 years into this tree being planted in the yard. This is what you can expect when you plant the trees the way we suggest that you plant them, with the supplements and the foliar feeding and the nurturing and that kind of stuff. And we used to get 300 to 400 apricots off of this tree every year. Another lawn solution, and your job in a lawn, because the lawn is eventually going to grow into the space, your job is to basically knock the grass back and then weed whack around the basin for the first year or two. And that keeps the grass away. The grass is going to come up through the basin, but what we want to do is we want to get the tree established before the grass gets established. So you do it this way. What I've also done in the past, and you can see my basin around here, is I use broken up concrete and just build, if you have flood irrigation, because that's what I have at the urban farm. If you have flood irrigation, you can just build up with broken up concrete or bricks around it so that the water can get in, but it doesn't wash away your woody mulch. All right. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This particular person, I did not take these pictures. These pictures came in from one of our clients that got trees from us. And what they did is they put 6 inches of woody mulch on their entire front yard. This is January of 2017. You can see the tags where the trees are at. You can barely see them. Here's what it looked like 6 months later. Again, this is their pictures. They sent them to me. This is how much they've grown in 6 months. This is their backyard picture. A fig, an apricot, and a peach. And here's the fig, the apricot, and the peach 6 months later. This is the kind of success you can expect when you follow our directions. And then this is one of my favorites. Earlier this year, you helped me out with my dying lime tree. I watched your webcast, dramatically altered the ground around the tree and bought mulch and fertilizer from us. And this is the difference that 4 months can make. This is from Farmer Rick. The one on the left was the before. The one on the right was 4 months later. Now, the other thing that I would do to this, and we've discovered this since he sent me these pictures, is a ground cover. And ground covers are sweet potatoes, which you buy organic sweet potatoes in the grocery store and plant them in February or March, or cowpeas. And we give away cowpea seeds in January on the fruit tree lot. So if you want cowpea seeds, we will have them for you in January. In fact, we need some people to grow cowpea seeds for us. I used to do all the cowpea seeds growing, and I'm going to try and grow them here in Asheville. But we could use some growers of cowpeas, and they grow really, really easily. I would easily grow 10 pounds of them a year. And it got to the point at the urban farm where they just came back year after year after year. I didn't have to plant them any longer. That's what they call an old growth food forest. Yay. All right, here you go. The most revolutionary discovery that I've made. And we've talked about this in our chats before. This makes the biggest difference for your trees. It was 140 degrees with no ground cover. It was 6 inches down. It was 120 degrees. Underneath the sweet potatoes, these happen to be sweet potatoes, it was 89 degrees. This is the difference between your trees making it and not. So in order of importance, 6-foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch. The woody mulch acts as an insulator. It holds water. It builds healthy soil. Number 2, tree wrap your tree the first year until it can shade itself. And number 3, plant a ground cover. Those for shade, that's the first 3 things that you need to do. All right, and there are so many factors that go into growing healthy trees in the desert. Most of them we have no control over. That's why we offer extensive education to contribute to your success. I am deeply committed, and Janice can tell you, it bums me out big time if people lose trees. And we do offer a guarantee. So taking ownership of a tree is not just about paying for the tree. This is a living plant and it needs to be treated as such. So expect to spend, I said this earlier, expect to spend as much on supplements and soil as you do on the tree for the best success. I'm going to talk about here real quickly, I'm going to talk about our guarantee, how our guarantee works. This is a partnership guarantee. What we ask that you do is you follow our directions. And Janice has done a masterful job of putting together another class. Janice, are you there?
I do, I'm here.
Yeah, Janice put together another class for us. It's called, what's it called, Janice?
Leveling up your tree care.
Leveling up your tree care. It's got 4 levels of tree care.
Well, the urban farm has three.
Correct.
But there
Yes.
are 4 levels. So we explain what the 4 levels are.
Yeah, we explain what the 4 levels are. And the higher up you go in the levels, the more success you're going to have. In fact, I saw Scott Murray is my one of my coaches, my mentors. He's in San Diego. Now, granted, he's in San Diego. It's not nearly as hot there. But they bought, in 2021, they bought a bunch of trees through our program that got planted in January of 2021. And they did extreme 4th level care on these trees. Twice a month foliar feeding, once a month fertilizing, watering appropriately.
There's 6 different areas
Yeah,
that you can take care of your care. And by doing it that way, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll go in depth with those. But what I want to, the point I wanted to make here, they were harvesting a lot of fruit in the first year. They had fruit the first year and it was like, Scott, what is going on here that you have fruit the first year? So the more care you give your trees, listen, trees need to be fed every day, just like you and I need to eat every day. So if you're feeding them regularly, you're going to be a lot more successful. So let's see, I just have a couple more slides here, Miss Janice, and then we will go to Q&A. You need some help. You can get epic yard planning sessions with me. It's called a garden consult. I had somebody recently tell me their garden consult left them more inspired, more excited with their project that they were working on, and their money back guarantee. Oh,
well, you cover fruit trees, you cover gardens, you cover permaculture. You get to narrow it in, and it could be either a phone consult or a Zoom.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, and I didn't finish the guarantee on our fruit trees. So here's how it's a partnership guarantee with the fruit tree program. You're going to follow our directions. We're going to teach you everything that we can teach you to make sure that you're successful. The moment you have a problem with the tree, the moment it looks a little sad, you're going to take a picture of it. You're going to send it to me, fruit trees, plural, at urbanfarm.org. And I'm going to take a look at it and I'm going to coach you through it to make sure that we save that tree. Then if for some reason that tree doesn't make it, we split the cost of an additional tree the next year. That's how our guarantee works. And we have a money back guarantee on the garden consults as well. And I have been doing them for a decade and never given anybody their money back. That's how committed I am that you are going to be inspired out of your garden consult. and with us. Then we have our citrus program. Our citrus program is a short window. This happens to be a 5-gallon citrus tree in this picture, a 15-gallon citrus tree in a 24-inch box. Unfortunately, with the citrus shortage this year, we could not bring in boxed trees, but we have 5 gallons and 15. Our citrus program is running now. We will be open, as I mentioned earlier, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of September. For picking up your citrus trees and supplies, all the supplies you need, will be open the 29th, 30th, and October 1st. And so those are the windows to actually come and pick up your citrus trees and your citrus supplies. And then we have our early bird bundles. And I'm going to have Janice talk about bundles and early bird stuff here in a little while.
Nope.
Nope, what?
That's a 2019 form.
But it talks about, this is
That's true.
the depth at which we go to educate and put together catalogs. Janice put together an amazing catalog. Here's your next steps. Take our other classes. We have 3 other classes for you to take. Join us for the Urban Farm Pop-Up Nursery in September and early October to pick up your pre-ordered citrus and buy deciduous planting supplies. If you want to pre-dig your hole and plant and fill them with planting mix and stuff, you can do that. You can get the supplies from us, and then you're going to pick up your deciduous trees. Deciduous trees lose their leaves in the winter. So that's all your stone fruit, anything with a pit in the middle of it, apples, pomegranates, figs, olives, grapes, berries, all that kind of stuff. And you can find out more information at fruittrees.org. And here's our ultimate goal. I love this picture on the top left. This picture was somebody 3 years into a peach tree. They sent me that picture and said, oh my God, look what I just harvested. The picture down below is mid-pride peaches and Anna and Dorset golden apples. That was on the counter at the Urban Farm, maybe a decade or so ago. And there you go.
We did get a question. Somebody wanted to say, can you say more about the rationale for planting in October and January? For example, what happens if I plant an apricot tree in October? That's the question.
All right. So let's go with the example first. First of all, that apricot tree had to sit in the pot throughout an entire summer. So we don't know how healthy it is.
If you get an apricot tree now, you're not getting it from us.
Right.
So you're getting it from somewhere else, and that means it's going to be in a pot.
And so you need to make sure that you have low chill hours. There are only 2 apricots that'll grow in the valley, the Katy and the Gold Kissed. The rest of them will grow, they just won't make fruit. So there's only 2 varieties of apricots that'll grow and produce fruit in the valley. So you know that.
Yeah. Imagine when you're growing trees, we buy them from a grower who grows them in the ground and allows them to grow out in the ground, and the roots are all spread out. They dig them up while they're dormant and send them to us with nice big roots. And we don't cut those roots back to put them in a pot. You've got the nice big roots. So you've got a better starting point for trees, for deciduous trees, because their root system is spread out further, and that gives them a good place to start. And they're asleep when you plant them, or mostly asleep, and then you're starting with a tree that's ready to grow. If you get a stone fruit that's in a pot, that's a very contained space for those roots, and they've either had to trim them or they started small and they grew out in these pots. You don't have as much of a growth root space for that. So that's why we only do bare root trees to bring in for our stone fruit and stuff.
Yeah, and bare root basically means that the roots are bare. And we found that that's the best way to do, because what's happening is they're being dug up, harvested in December, put on a truck, brought to us while they're dormant, and they're sleeping. They go into the ground while they're dormant and break dormancy where they're going to live the rest of their life. So we found that this is the best way. And Tom our representative from Dave Wilson Nursery, where we get all of our trees, and they grow 20 million trees a year. He said, Greg, going with bare root is the best way to go.
See, if you guys understand about transplant shock, any single plant that moves from one location to another location has some level of transplant shock. And what our goal is to minimize that to the absolute bare minimum possible so that your tree is not going to be suffering while it goes through this change. By doing the bare roots, you do it while it's dormant for the apples and apricots and peaches, then you don't have that transplant shock. If you have a potted plant, then you're going to try and make sure you don't disturb the soil when you put it in the new hole, like a citrus tree. You're going to try and keep that pot there without breaking the soil off, and you're going to minimize the transplant shock, especially since they're going to be struggling with our intense heats during the summer.
Right. And so let's go back to the first part of that question. Planting citrus in late September, early October gets them in the ground as it's cooling off in the low desert, and it gets them established throughout the winter so that when the heat really comes in June, you have an established tree.
Yeah.
If you try and put a tree in the spring, it's harder on the citrus tree.
Yeah, see, we used to bring them in the February, but that was like trying to back it up right up against the last freeze, because you don't want a citrus tree going in the ground right when it's going to freeze. And it was just really close, and it was very hard to manage. And we found that by bringing it in September, you're trying to get the tree established. It'll weather those freezes a little better, and then it's prepared before the summer comes.
Yeah. So we bring in we run a pop-up nursery. We're only open about 20 days a year for trees, and we bring in the trees exactly when they need to be planted.
Yeah.
So the citrus will be here next week, which is September 20, after September 22nd, and the deciduous will be in January, and that's when I want you to plant them.
Yeah.
Megan wants to know, she's digging her citrus holes this weekend. The holes should be 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot deep. And you're going to want to do something called a perk test. Basically, you stick a hose in the hole, and 24 hours later, the hole should be empty. Really, 4 hours later, the hole should be empty.
Fill it once, let it drain, fill it twice, let it drain.
Yep. If for some reason you still have water in the hole 24 hours later, like it's still full, you're going to email Janice, which is singular fruit tree at urbanfarm.org, and say, what do I do? And she has articles that she's written. You
can do that. But if you, more than likely, I might not be able to get back to you, because if you email me over the weekend, it's my weekend too, Sunday, Monday. You can also go online to our blog articles, and you can look up fruit tree slum lord. That's my story of the mud bath salon. Either one of those will get you into my story about what happened. But in our member portal, in our private area where we have all our resources, there is a downloadable document that will help you see what to do and some different options you can try. I'll be glad to help, but don't expect me to answer over the weekend.
Yeah. Megan, she wants to know about a 15-gallon size. 2 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot is probably good for that as well, for a 15-gallon size.
Andrea says, I desperately want fruit trees. I get close to 5 hours of sun between 10 and 2:45 in the area that I want to plant them. Is that enough sun to grow fruit trees? Midday sun.
Yeah, it's most likely. I think you'd be good. You might start off with a couple and see how they do in that area, but I suspect you'll get fruit.
Arizona sun is a lot of sun. That is midday sun. So plan on the first summer to be shading them, because, a light shade over that, because you don't have a lot of area, just because it's so intense. Yeah. You're getting middays. Morning sun is the best sun.
Yeah. Scott wants to know, are there any nectarine varieties that grow well in the low desert? There are not. They are highly susceptible to something called a thrip. A thrip is a bug that crawls up out of the soil and sucks on the fruit when it's small. And so you get these smaller, gnarly, bruised fruit. Plant a peach. Plant a peach.
Nectarines you can get at the grocery store, unless you have a really, really healthy ecosystem, you might last for a while, but more than likely the thrips will come get them.
Yeah. So yeah, no on the nectarines, just plant a peach.
Not from us.
Yeah. How close? So here, let me actually speak to that real quickly. We only bring in trees and plants that are successful, that will, if you do what we tell you to do, in 3 years you'll get fruit. That's the fruit that we bring in. That's the only way we do it. We want you to be successful, unless we say that it's experimental, and we do bring in some experimental plants, and we always bring in a bunch of blueberries because people want blueberries. If you're going to grow blueberries, grow them in a pot, acidify the soil. Some people are very successful at it, at blueberries in the desert, but you have to, you really have to stay on top of them. They take a lot of doting over.
See, what we do is we have our classes and we have the trees that are for, you know, newbies in first year, second year, maybe up to 5 years worth of growing experience of growing a tree. If you have been able to develop a really great microclimate in your yard, and we speak to that in other classes, and you have experience having multiple trees, then you're ready to invest in maybe something else. We're not going to have those trees, but there are places in the valley that you can get those other trees. But don't waste your money on those really tenuous varieties until you know what you're doing with your yard and you've got the good microclimate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I get this question all the time, and I'm going to address it. It may upset some people, but avocados are an absolute no-go in the low desert. There are a couple of them that have made it over time.
Yes.
But at most 99% of the ones that I've seen, they die. The heat just gets them.
And people overlove them. They try to give them extra care, and what they end up doing is they overlove them, and they drown. They're just my husband likes to call them diva plants.
Oh yeah, there you go.
They're the
like
diva.
That.
They're divas. They just need so much care and love and special attention.
Yeah.
Pat says, how close can I plant deciduous trees to concrete or a house?
That's really what is your comfort level. The deciduous trees aren't very invasive on the roots.
Most of them.
No, pretty much all of them.
I thought the mulberry.
Well, I planted a mulberry 8 inches away from the house at the urban
That's
farm.
true.
It's, you know, the Pakistani mulberry, you got to do what's comfortable for you. The reason I put them 8 inches away from the wall at the urban farm, it was a Western exposure. Somebody had a question about what you can grow on a Western wall. Sarah said, what can be grown against a Western wall? Mulberries for sure. And we have 2 different kinds of mulberries that are absolute rock stars. There's a Pakistani mulberry and there's the dwarf black mulberry. The dwarf black is not a dwarf mulberry tree. It is a dwarf berry. They're about the size of a dime, and they're the most productive berry that is in Phoenix. In fact, I love them so much. That is our only plant that we put on the buy 3 get 1 free, because they make great replacements for oleanders and they make a great hedge. Yes, Janice.
They're actually ever bearing. So if you have a crop and you prune it back a little bit, you can promote it to grow another crop, and you prune it back. You can get 3, maybe 4 crops a year if you want to work it.
I did get 2 crops off of the ones at the urban farm regularly.
Yeah, but if you
2 different kinds a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Andrea, go ahead.
Andrea says, I read against soil amendments. Roots of trees will adjust better to native soil. Is that true for Arizona?
You see me steaming here? That is such a pile of BS. And you can do this experiment. Dig a hole, stick a tree in it, and walk away and see how it does.
In
I've done
native
that.
soil.
I've done that in native soil. There is a 70% chance that the tree is going to die.
Well,
We
let's,
have to give them the best limb up that we can give them. And we do that by supplementing the soil around the base of the tree.
well, let's talk about it. The soil that we have in Arizona is soil that has been dried out and dead for so long. It's got high calcium content, high caliche. Some areas are super sandy, some areas are super clayey, and there's not much in between. Even if you do have a yard that's getting a lot of water, it's still a lot of, or excuse me, a lack of organic living material in our Arizona native soil. So you need to supplement it. Now, what Greg says 60-40, that's what he talks about in our planting class, a 60% new material, 40% native material. So that is giving your tree a chance to get used to some native, but still give it a place that it can thrive. And what we teach is a soil ecosystem, which means the whole thing of bioorganic life that is in that soil is going to make your tree a happier tree.
Yeah, amen to that. Jeffrey Ball.
I get a little crazy on that one.
That's okay. It gets my hackles up, as you can tell.
I know.
Jeffrey, you said concrete. What about concrete? I need more information on that. Sandy says, I don't have my soil prepared yet for the citrus trees. Is it okay to prepare it now for pickup at the end of this month? Absolutely. And really preparing for you for citrus for picking up at the end of the month is get your holes dug.
See, that's what the big thing about preparing your hole is, the work to dig a hole. Sometimes when you dig a hole, you're surprised.
Oh.
Is there caliche? Are there
Yep.
big rocks? Are
Yep.
there big roots? Is there a poor drainage situation? So dig your hole, get the big stuff out, do that work, throw the water in, check it out, and deal with whatever issues you are. Personally, my story is I found a lot of surprises in my soil. I had to pull everything out and start over. We don't want you to do that. Well, I was in a rush to get my new trees in my new yard. But if you do the work and you dig your hole, you find your issues, you can fix them. And then when you bring your tree home, it's easy peasy, plop it in and you're ready to go.
By the way, right behind her is her backyard. And 5 years ago, it was dirt.
It was dead.
Yeah.
It was a Martian landscape.
Jeffrey said our native soil is like concrete. It can be.
Yes, it is.
It can be like concrete. Absolutely.
We have native, there's a natural formation of calcium in our soil that forms something called caliche. And I had sections of caliche that were more than 6 inches thick in my yard. Yeah,
Wow.
it was a tough experience for my poor trees, but I got past it. I did get past it.
Yeah. Alicia, thanks for the links.
Yes,
I just
Alicia.
pulled up the healthy soil link that you sent over. Thanks.
Happy trees grow from healthy soil.
right.
Yes, they do.
All right. Well, if there
Saturday.
are no other questions, this Saturday, 2 things are happening this Saturday. Actually, 3 things are happening this Saturday. Thing number 1 is our citrus is arriving Saturday. Thing
Don't
number
come
2,
get them.
don't come and get them. They're
Don't
just
come and
arriving
get
on the
them.
lot.
I have a lot of work to do with them before you come get them.
Yeah. Thing number 2 that's happening on Saturday is I am giving our planting, watering, and fertilizing class at what time is that? Is it
Oh, look, keep talking about what it is.
noontime? I think it's noontime on Saturday. So that'll be the planting, watering, and fertilizing. So if you definitely want to attend that class if you're getting citrus trees.
Noon.
And thing number noon. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And thing number 3 that's happening Saturday is I'm giving a Zoom class on Jumpstart Your Fall Garden at our buddy Jeremy's hydroponics store. I'm doing it via Zoom.
And how does people sign up for that?
Contact the store. It's Little Shop of Hydros.
Little
Or
shop
you
of
can-
hydros.
Or you can send me a link and I'll send you the link for it so you can watch it.
Come join them at Little Shop of Hydros on 7th Street.
Woo! All
Yes.
right. Anything
Now,
else, Miss Janice? Mhm.
next week, we have fruit tree class number 3, which is
Up leveling your tree care.
leveling up your tree care. And then we got the seed chat. And so that's getting us ready. And then the citrus tree pickup starts next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we will both be at the lot ready to help.
And that's September 22nd,
22nd,
23rd,
23rd, and 24th.
and then the following Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as well.
And then, you know, we've got a lot of other classes and we'll be putting them up on YouTube. And we're here to help. As
Yes,
your
we are.
orders, as your orders are coming in, I am reviewing orders. And if they have both deciduous and citrus on the order, I'm splitting them. So if you have both, which is fine, I'm splitting them. You'll be seeing some adjustments. And then if you have, then you'll be seeing emails that say your tree order is in the citrus queue or the September queue or the January queue. And if you're in this, if you're a citrus order, there's a link to go to for scheduling your pickup.
Yes, you definitely want to schedule pickup. That is the gift for our team that came out of
Oh, that
COVID.
made things so much easier.
We scheduled everybody, and it used to be that people would just show up whenever they showed up. And I've been doing this 23 years, and they would just show up, and sometimes the wait would be 2 or 3 hours.
Just
and
because
now-
we're so busy.
Just because we're so busy. And now with the scheduling, thank you, Janice. Now with
Heidi's
this-
idea.
It was Heidi's idea, wasn't it? Thank you, Heidi. She's making dinner. I can smell it. Scheduling is just, it's magical. You don't have to have an appointment, but please make an appointment.
We serve appointments first.
Yeah.
And we
Now
will
get-
have extra products on the lot for sale. We'll have soil, mulch, compost, foliar amendments, general store supplies, some citrus trees too, although we're already sold out of some. And
Yeah.
yay,
Hey, and guess what I get to go do now?
go eat dinner.
My favorite show of all time is concluding this week
AGT.
for their 17th season, America's Got Talent. The reason I love America's Got Talent is because people have to show up and be big in life. And you know how I like to be big in life. It's like,
You love epic.
let's transform our world,
Mhm.
you know, by how we speak. And so I'm getting chills because we watched it the day after. So it was last night. So we're watching the replay
Shh,
tonight.
Nobody tell them the answers.
Yeah, don't tell me who won. And then we'll see the finals tomorrow night. But as you can tell, I get really excited about that. And the other thing I'm excited about is I get to see y'all next week.
Wait, who are you?
All right. All right, guys. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Bye now.